Have you ever met someone who changed a life with a single act of kindness? What if the person everyone ignored was the only one who could stop a disaster? And what if the truth came from a struggling single dad working long hours as a waiter, while powerful people in expensive suits stood silently by? This story is a reminder that kindness, courage, and honesty can come from the most unexpected places. Stay with me until the end, because this unforgettable moment changed several lives forever. Before we begin, please take a moment to subscribe, like, and leave a comment below. Welcome to Heart Kindness Tales, where every story reminds us that kindness still has the power to change the world. Michael Carter balanced 3 plates on his arm as he moved through the crowded dining room of a luxury hotel in New York City. The evening rush was at its peak. Wealthy guests filled the restaurant, business deals were being discussed at nearly every table, and the sound of soft music floated through the air. For Michael, every shift mattered. As a single father raising his 8-year-old daughter, Emma, he worked long hours to pay rent, buy groceries, and save for her future. Life wasn't easy, but Michael never complained. He believed that treating people with kindness was important, no matter how difficult life became. That evening, a special guest arrived. The restaurant manager quickly gathered the staff. Everyone, pay attention, he whispered. A billionaire investor from overseas is dining here tonight. His name is Mr. Hiro Tanaka. He's considering a major business deal worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Make sure everything is perfect. Michael nodded and returned to work. When Mr. Tanaka entered, he appeared calm and polite. Beside him walked a woman named Vanessa, his translator and business assistant. Several American executives were already waiting at a private table near the window. Michael greeted them warmly and served drinks. As the meeting began, he noticed something unusual. Years earlier, Michael had studied Japanese in college. He never became fluent, but he could still understand enough to follow simple conversations. While serving appetizers, he heard Mr. Tanaka speaking quietly in Japanese to Vanessa. Mr. Tanaka asked a question. Vanessa translated something completely different. Michael frowned. Maybe he had misunderstood. But throughout the evening, it kept happening. Mr. Tanaka would speak. Vanessa would change his words. Sometimes slightly, sometimes dramatically. Michael felt uneasy. The executives smiled as Vanessa translated, and documents were passed across the table for signatures. An hour later, Michael overheard a conversation that made his heart race. Mr. Tanaka asked whether a certain financial risk existed in the agreement. Vanessa turned to him and confidently said, "No, there is absolutely no risk involved." But that wasn't what he had asked. And it certainly wasn't what the executives were discussing among themselves. Michael realized something terrible. Mr. Tanaka was being deceived. The translator was hiding critical information that could cost him millions. Michael stood frozen near the service station. What should he do? If he spoke up, he could lose his job. The translator was part of the billionaire's team. The executives were powerful people. Who would believe a waiter? But if he stayed silent, an innocent man could be ruined. He thought about his daughter. Emma often said something he taught her every morning. Doing the right thing isn't always easy, Daddy. The words echoed in his mind. Finally, Michael took a deep breath. He walked toward the table. The manager immediately noticed. "What are you doing?" he whispered urgently. But Michael kept walking. When the discussion paused, he respectfully addressed Mr. Tanaka. "Sir, I'm very sorry for interrupting." The room became silent. The executives looked annoyed. Vanessa's eyes narrowed. Michael's heart pounded. "I know this may sound strange," he continued carefully, "but I understand some Japanese. I believe there may be important information that isn't being translated accurately." The room exploded with tension.
and how you can
Vanessa immediately stood.
It is all about taking that
That's
very
ridiculous,
first step.
she snapped.
Welcome back to the show, everyone.
He's a
Today
waiter.
we are diving deep
He
into
doesn't know what he's
creative
talking
mindsets
about.
and how you can
The
unlock your
executives
own
exchanged
potential.
nervous
It's all about
glances.
taking that very first step.
Mr. Tanaka
Welcome
looked
back to the
surprised.
show, everyone. Today we are
Then he
diving
spoke
deep
directly
into
in
creative
Japanese.
mindsets.
To
And how you
everyone's
can unlock
shock,
your own
Michael
potential.
answered.
It is all about taking that
Not
very
perfectly,
first step.
but clearly
Welcome
enough.
back to the show, everyone.
Mr.
Today we are
Tanaka's
diving
expression
deep into
changed
creative
instantly.
mindsets.
He
And how
asked
you can
another
unlock your
question.
own potential. It is
Michael
all about
answered
taking that
again.
very first step.
Now the billionaire's
Welcome back to the
face
show,
grew
everyone.
serious.
Today we are diving deep
For the
into
next several
creative
minutes,
mindsets.
Mr. Tanaka
How you
spoke
can
directly
unlock
with
your own
Michael
potential.
while another
It is all
independent
about taking
translator
that
was
very first
contacted
step.
by phone.
Welcome back to the show.
When the new
everyone.
translator
Today we are
joined the
diving
conversation,
deep into
the
creative
truth became
mindsets
undeniable.
and how you can unlock your
Vanessa
own
had been
potential.
altering
It is all
information
about taking
throughout
that
the
very
meeting.
first step.
Several
Welcome
key
back to the show,
financial
everyone.
risks had
Today
been
we are
hidden.
diving deep into
Certain
creative
terms favored the
mindsets
executives
and how
heavily
you
while
can
exposing
unlock
Mr.
your potential.
Tanaka
It
to
is all
enormous
about taking
losses.
that very first step.
The billionaire had
Welcome
been
back to
only
the show,
minutes away
everyone.
from
Today
signing
we
the
are diving
agreement.
deep into creative
The room
mindsets
fell silent.
and how you can unlock
One
your own
executive
potential.
quietly
It is all
lowered his
about taking
eyes.
that very first step.
Another suddenly
Welcome back
became
to the
very
show,
interested
everyone.
in his
Today we are
phone.
diving deep into
Vanessa
creative
had no
mindsets
explanation.
and how you can unlock
Security
your own
eventually
potential. It is
escorted
all
her
about
away.
taking that very first step.
Mr. Tanaka sat
Welcome back to the
quietly
show,
for a
everyone.
moment.
Today we are diving
Then he
deep
turned
into
to Michael.
creative mindsets.
"You saved
and
me
how you can
today,"
unlock
he
your
said
own
through the
potential.
translator.
It's all about taking that very
Michael
first
shook his
step.
head.
Welcome back to the
"I
show,
just did what I
everyone.
thought was
Today we are
right."
diving deep into
The billionaire
creative
smiled.
mindsets and how you
No.
can unlock your own potential.
Many
It is
people would
all
have
about
stayed
taking that
silent.
very first step.
The meeting
Welcome
ended
back to the
shortly
show, everyone.
afterward.
Today we are diving
Michael
deep
returned
into
to work,
creative
assuming the
mindsets
story was
and how
over.
you can unlock your own
It
potential.
wasn't.
It is all about taking
3
that
days
very
later,
first step.
he was called into the
Welcome back
hotel
to the show,
manager's
everyone.
office.
Today we are diving
At
deep
first,
into
he
creative
worried he was in
mindsets
trouble.
and how you can unlock
Instead,
your own
he
potential.
found
It is
Mr.
all
Tanaka
about taking
waiting
that
there.
very first step.
The billionaire
Welcome back
stood
to the
and
show,
warmly
everyone.
shook his
Today
hand.
we are diving deep
"I
into
wanted to
creative
thank you
mindsets
personally," he
and
said.
how you can unlock your
Michael
own potential.
smiled.
It is all about taking
"That
that
isn't
very first
necessary."
step. Welcome
But
back to the
Mr.
show,
Tanaka
everyone.
disagreed.
Today we are diving deep
Over
into
the next
creative
hour,
mindsets
they talked about
and how
family,
you can unlock
life,
your own
and
potential.
challenges.
It is all about taking
Michael
that very
shared his
first step.
journey as a single
Welcome
father.
back to the show, everyone.
He
Today
spoke
we are
about
diving
Emma,
deep
her
into
dreams,
creative
and how
mindsets
hard he worked to
and how
provide
you
for
can
her.
unlock your own potential.
Mr.
It is all
Tanaka
about
listened
taking that
carefully.
very first step.
Before
Welcome
leaving,
back to the
he
show,
handed
everyone.
Michael a
Today
small
we are diving
envelope.
deep into creative
Inside was a
mindsets
handwritten note.
and how you can unlock your own
It read,
potential. It is all about
"Kindness
taking
and
that very
honesty
first
are
step.
more valuable than
Welcome
money."
back to the show, everyone.
Thank
Today
you for
we are
reminding me
diving
of
deep
that.
into creative mindsets
Michael framed the note
and
and
how you
placed
can
it beside
unlock your own
Emma's bed.
potential. It is all about
Months
taking that
passed.
very first step.
One
Welcome
afternoon,
back to the show,
Michael
everyone.
received an
Today we are
unexpected
diving
phone
deep
call.
into creative mindsets
Mr. Tanaka had launched
and
a
how you can unlock
foundation
your own
supporting
potential.
hardworking
It is
single
all about
parents.
taking that very first step.
He invited Michael to
Welcome
help
back to
develop
show,
the
everyone.
program.
Today we are diving
The
deep
position
into
offered
creative
stable
mindsets
hours, better pay,
and how you can
and the
unlock your own
opportunity to help families
all
facing
about
the
taking
same
that
struggles
very
he
first
once
step.
faced.
Welcome back to the
Michael
show, everyone.
accepted.
Today we are diving deep
For the first
into
time in
creative
years,
mindsets
he could spend
and
evenings
how
with
you can
Emma.
unlock your own potential.
He
It
attended
is all
school
about
events.
taking that very first step.
He helped with
Welcome
homework.
back to the show, everyone.
He
Today
watched
we
her
are
soccer
diving
games
deep
from the
into
sidelines
creative
instead of
mindsets
rushing to another
and how
late-night
you can
shift.
unlock your own potential.
One
It is all
evening,
about
Emma
taking
looked
that
up at
very
him and
first step.
smiled.
Welcome back to
"Daddy,
the show, everyone.
are we
Today
finally
we are
okay?"
diving deep into
Michael
creative
felt
mindsets
tears fill his
and how
eyes.
you can unlock your own
"Yes,"
potential.
he
It is
whispered.
all about taking that very
"I
first
think we
step.
are."
Welcome back to
Years
the show,
later,
everyone.
the
Today we are
foundation helped
diving
thousands
deep
of
into
families
creative
across the
mindsets
country.
and how you
Parents
can unlock
found
your own
support.
potential. It is all about
Children
taking that
received
very first
opportunities.
step. Welcome back
And
to
it
the
all
show,
began
everyone.
because
Today
one
we are
waiter
diving
chose
deep
honesty
into
over
creative
fear.
mindsets.
Because
And
one
how you
act
can
of
unlock
courage
your own
prevented a
potential.
terrible
It is
mistake.
all about taking that very
Because
first step.
kindness isn't just
Welcome
about
back to the
being
show,
nice.
everyone. Today we are diving
Sometimes
deep into
kindness means
creative
protecting
mindsets.
someone when nobody
How
else
you can
will.
unlock your own potential. It is
Sometimes
all about
kindness
taking
means
that very
risking your
first
own
step.
comfort to help another
Welcome back to
person.
the show, everyone. Today
And
we are
sometimes
diving
kindness
deep into
changes lives in
creative
ways we
mindsets
could never
and
imagine.
how you can unlock your own
So the
potential.
next time you
It is
have the
all about
chance to
taking
help
that very
someone,
first
speak
step.
up for what's right,
Welcome back to
or
the
show
show, everyone.
compassion to a
Today we are
stranger.
diving deep
remember Michael's story. You never know whose future may depend on a simple act of courage and kindness. And you never know how far that kindness might travel. One honest moment can save a person. One kind action can inspire a community.
Welcome back
And
to the
one
show,
caring
everyone.
heart
Today
can
we
change
are
the
diving
world.
deep into creative
Until next
mindsets.
time, keep
How
spreading
you can
kindness
unlock your
wherever
own
you go,
potential. It
because
is all
even the
about
smallest
taking that
act
very
of goodness
first
can
step.
create a ripple that
Welcome back to
lasts
the show,
forever.
everyone. Today we are diving deep
The following
into
week,
creative
Michael
mindsets
started his
and
new role
how
at
you
Mr.
can unlock
Tanaka's
your own
foundation.
potential. It is all about
For the
taking that
first
very
time in
first
many
step.
years, life
Welcome
felt
back to the
stable.
show, everyone. Today
He
we
no
are
longer
diving
rushed
deep
from
into
one shift
creative
to another.
mindsets and how
He
you
had
can
dinner
unlock
with
your
Emma
own
every
potential.
evening
It
and
is
even
all
helped
about
her
taking
build a
that
small
very first
science
step.
project for school.
Welcome back to the show, everyone.
But while
Today we
Michael's
are
life was
diving deep
improving,
into
he
creative
couldn't stop
mindsets
thinking about the night
and
at the
how you can
hotel.
unlock your own potential.
One
It is all
question
about
kept
taking
returning
that
to his
very first
mind.
step. Welcome
Why
back
had
to the
Vanessa
show,
risked
everyone.
everything?
Today we are diving deep
One
into
afternoon,
creative
Mr.
mindsets
Tanaka invited
and how
Michael
you
to
can unlock
lunch.
your own potential.
As
It
they
is all
sat
about taking
together,
that
the
very
billionaire
first step.
shared something
Welcome back to
surprising.
the show, everyone. Today
The
we are
investigation
diving
is
deep
finished,
into
he said
creative
quietly.
mindsets and how you
Michael
can
listened
unlock your own
carefully.
potential. It is all
It
about
turned
taking
out that
very
Vanessa
first
had not
step.
acted alone.
Welcome back to the show, everyone.
Several
Today we are
executives had
diving
secretly
deep
promised
into
her a
creative
huge payment if
mindsets
she convinced
and how
Mr.
you can
Tanaka
unlock
to
your
sign
own
the
potential.
deal.
It is all about taking
Together,
that very
they
first
planned to
step.
hide millions of
Welcome
dollars
back
in
to the show,
losses and
everyone.
transfer the
Today we are
financial
diving
burden
deep
onto
into
him.
creative mindsets
If you had stayed
and how you
silent,
can
Mr.
unlock your own
Tanaka said,
potential.
I
It
could
is
have
all
lost
about
nearly
taking
$500
that very
million.
first step. Welcome back
Michael
to the show,
shook his
everyone.
head in
Today
disbelief.
we are diving deep into
Mr.
creative
Tanaka
mindsets
smiled gently.
and how you can unlock
But
your own
because you
potential.
spoke up,
It is all
many
about taking
innocent
that very
employees
first
were
step.
protected.
Welcome back to the
Their
show,
jobs
everyone.
are
Today
safe.
we are diving deep
That
into
thought
creative
touched Michael
mindsets
deeply.
and how you can
He
unlock
hadn't
your own
only helped
potential.
one
It is
billionaire.
all about taking that very
He had
first step.
unknowingly helped thousands
Welcome
of
back to the show,
workers and their
everyone. Today
families.
we are diving deep
A few
into
months
creative
later, the
mindsets
foundation
and how
organized
you
a
can
charity
unlock your
event
own
in
potential.
Chicago.
It is all about taking
Michael
that very
attended
first
as a
step.
guest speaker.
Welcome back to the show, everyone.
Standing on
Today we are
stage made him
diving deep
nervous.
into creative mindsets
After all, he was
and how
just a
you can
former
unlock
waiter.
your own potential. It
But
is
when
all
he
about
began
taking that
sharing
very
his story,
first step.
the audience
Welcome
listened
back to the
carefully.
show, everyone. Today we
He
are
spoke
diving
about
deep
raising
into
Emma
creative
alone.
mindsets
He
and
spoke
how you
about
can
working
unlock your
double
own
shifts.
potential. It is all about
And he
taking that
spoke
very
about
first
choosing
step.
honesty when
Welcome
fear
back
told
to the
him
show,
to stay
everyone.
silent.
Today we are diving deep
When he
into
finished,
creative
the room
mindsets
erupted with
and
applause.
how you can unlock your own
As people
potential.
lined up
It
to
is all
thank
about
him,
taking
an
that
elderly
very
woman
first step.
approached.
Welcome back to
Tears
the show,
filled her
everyone.
eyes.
Today we are diving deep
My
into
son works for
creative
one of the
mindsets
companies that
and how
survived
you
because
can
of what
unlock
you
your own
did,
potential.
she said.
It is all about taking
Your
that very
decision
first
helped
step.
keep food on our
Welcome
table.
back to the show, everyone.
Michael
Today we
felt
are
his
diving
throat
deep
tighten.
into creative mindsets
Once again, he
and how you
realized
can
that
unlock your
kindness
own
often
potential.
creates
It is all
results we
about
never
taking that
see.
very first step.
Just when life
Welcome back
seemed
to the show,
perfect,
everyone.
another
Today
challenge
we are diving
appeared.
deep into creative
One evening,
mindsets
Emma came home
and
from
how you
school
can
looking
unlock your own
upset.
potential. It is all
She
about
dropped her
taking that very
backpack and
first
sat
step.
quietly.
Welcome back to the show,
What's
everyone.
wrong?
Today we are diving
Michael
deep
asked.
into creative mindsets
A few tears
and
rolled
how
down
you
her
can unlock
cheeks.
your own potential. It
A
is
new
all
girl
about taking
started
that
school
very first
today,
step.
Emma said.
Welcome back to the show, everyone.
Some kids were
Today we
making
are
fun of
diving
her
deep
because she
into
talks
creative
differently.
mindsets and how
Michael
you can
immediately
unlock your own
understood.
potential. It is all
Did
about
anyone
taking
help
that very
her?
first
He
step.
asked.
Welcome back to
Emma
the show,
looked
everyone.
down.
Today we are diving
No.
deep into creative mindsets
The room became
and
silent.
how you can unlock your
Then
own
Michael
potential.
smiled
It is all about
softly.
taking that very first
Do you
step.
remember the story
Welcome
about the
back to
night at the
show,
hotel?
everyone. Today we are diving
Emma
deep
nodded.
into creative mindsets.
You told me that doing the
and how
right
you can
thing
unlock
isn't
your own
always
potential.
easy.
It is all about
Emma
taking that
slowly
very
looked
first
up.
step. Welcome
The
back
next
to the
morning,
show, everyone.
she made a
Today we are
decision.
diving deep into
At lunch,
creative mindsets
she sat beside the new
and how you
girl.
can unlock your own potential.
She introduced
It is all
herself
about
and
taking
invited
that
her to
very
join a
first
group
step.
activity.
Welcome back to the show,
The girl
everyone.
smiled
Today
for the
we are
first
diving
time all
deep
day.
into creative mindsets
Within weeks,
and
they
how you
became
can
best
unlock your own
friends.
potential. It is all
When
about
Emma
taking
later
that
told
very
her father
first
what
step.
happened,
Welcome
Michael
back to
couldn't
the
stop
show, everyone.
smiling.
Today we are diving
The
deep
lesson had
into
come full
creative
circle.
mindsets and
The
how you can
kindness that
unlock your
once
own
saved a
potential. It
billionaire
is
was
all
now
about
helping
taking
a
that
lonely
very
child
first step.
feel accepted.
Welcome back to the show, everyone.
Months turned
Today
into
we are
years.
diving deep into
The
creative
foundation
mindsets
continued
and
growing.
how you can unlock your own
Thousands of
potential.
single
It is
parents
all about
received
taking
support.
that very first step.
Children
Welcome
earned
back to the show,
scholarships.
everyone. everyone. Today we are
Families found hope during difficult times.
And how you
One
unlock
day,
your own
Mr.
potential.
Tanaka
It is all
announced
about
his
taking that
retirement.
very first step.
At a special
Welcome back to the
ceremony,
show, everyone.
he invited
Today we
Michael
are
onto the
diving deep
stage.
into creative
In
mindset.
front of hundreds of
How
guests,
you can
he
unlock
shared
your
the
own
story of the
potential.
waiter
It
who
is all
changed
about taking
everything.
that very first step.
Then he
Welcome
surprised
back to the show,
everyone.
everyone. Today we
I
are
built this
diving deep
foundation,
into
he
creative
said,
mindsets.
but Michael gave it its
And how
heart.
you can unlock your own
The
potential.
audience
It is
rose to
all
their
about
feet.
taking that very first step.
Michael looked across the
Welcome back to
room
the
and
show,
saw Emma
everyone.
clapping
Today we are
proudly.
diving deep into
At that
creative
moment,
mindsets.
he understood something
How you can
important.
unlock your own potential.
Real
It is all
success
about
isn't
taking
measured
that
by
very
money.
first step.
It's
Welcome
measured
back to
by
the show,
lives
everyone.
touched,
Today we
people
are diving
helped,
deep
and kindness
into creative
shared.
mindsets.
After the
And how you can
ceremony,
unlock your
Emma
own
hugged her
potential.
father
It is all
tightly.
about taking that very
I'm
first
proud of
step.
you, Dad.
Welcome back to the show, everyone.
Michael
Today
smiled.
We are diving deep into
I'm proud of you
creative
too.
mindsets and how
As
you
they
can
walked
unlock your
outside
own
together,
potential.
the
It is all
evening
about
sun
taking
painted
that
the
very
sky
first
with
step.
shades of gold.
Welcome back to the show, everyone.
Neither of them
Today
knew
we are
what the
diving
future would
deep
bring.
into creative mindsets
But they knew one thing
and how
for
you can
certain.
unlock your own potential.
A single
It's all
act of
about
courage
taking
had
that very
changed their
first step.
lives forever. And every act of kindness that followed had created another ripple of hope. Because kindness never truly ends. It travels from one heart to another. From one family to another. From one generation to the next. And sometimes, all it takes to change the world is one ordinary person willing to do the right thing when nobody else will. The end. Red Heart.